Hey guys, I'm Adrienne and welcome to my channel. Today I will talk about Trello and how I use it to organize my sewing patterns, so if it's something that you're curious about, stay tuned. First off, what is Trello? Trello is a task management app that gives you a visual overview of what tasks are being worked on and who's working on it. So it's used by many businesses to track the progress of a project, but in my case, I'm using it as a organizing tool to see all my PDF patterns and kind of get an overview of what patterns I've made, what patterns I want to do, and a little bit where I am on my sewing journey. I did speak about Trello to a few of my friends and I feel like people are interested, but it's a bit intimidating and it feels maybe like a task to put all your PDF patterns in it. If you have already a few PDF patterns and you would like them to be all in Trello already, well, it's not a big task, and for me it was quite easy because I was doing this while, let's say, being on the metro, or every time I have some downtime I would just add the PDF patterns to my list, because you don't really need Wi-Fi and you can use either your phone or your computer to add items to your list. So don't be intimidated by this. If you're interested, just keep watching and I will show my computer screen to explain to you how I did this and how I use the app. I have to say though that I use the app mostly on my cell phone, and the main thing that I love about having all my PDF patterns on Trello is that if I go shopping, I always have my patterns with me and the quantity of fabric that I need and the type of fabric that I need, so it's easier for me to shop and make like more informed decision because I know I'm buying fabric for a specific project and I know I have the good quantity, and it just feels like I'm making better fabric choices. Okay, so when we get into Trello, that's what we see. We see our boards, then we can click on a board, and the board is made out of lists that we can see here. In those lists there are cards, and those cards kind of represent a task. In my board I have 7 lists. So I have this list that regroups the patterns I made. Then this list represents the patterns that I bought but that I haven't made yet. This list contains the patterns that I bought on November 4th. That was a vintage lot of pattern that I bought from a lady living in my neighborhood. And in this list are the patterns that I'm thinking of doing. In this list I have the next makes that I think I'm going to do. In this list I have the patterns that I think I would like to buy. In this list I have the mending that I'm supposed to do. And finally in this list it's my wish list of fabrics, so the fabrics that I think I would like to buy. The cards are simply made out of a picture that you can upload easily. You can add labels that you can create right here, so you pick a color and you just write the title that you want it to have, and then you could just click and add another label to it. Then you can filter your board by labels. That's very useful. Then you can add a due date, and here you can see I wanted to finish those pants by December 21st, which I did. In the description I add the size I made, and I try to put down all the adjustment that I did. And I write down the lessons learned, also whether I'd like to do this pattern again. You can add a checklist with all the items you want to complete. I really like that because it gives me a progress of where I am on my completion of the project. Then you could add comments, and you could also tag people if you'd like them to see your message. So right here you can see what you can add to the card. So you can add a member, let's say if you're sharing this list with someone else. You can work with the labels, which we talked about earlier. You can add a checklist and you can put a different name to it that you can choose right here. And you can copy the same items for every checklist. So let's say you know you'll always have to cut the fabric, cut the interfacing, and assemble the PDF pattern or something. Some tasks are very repetitive, so you can just copy those items every time. So this is where you can add pictures. So let's say you go in your computer and you want to add a picture, you just select it and upload it. There will be a new picture on your card, and you can choose to make it a cover or not. I will delete this one since it's not the right picture for this pattern. You can move the card, which means you would put it, let's say, in another list, and you can select the position where it will be. So let's just move this one and see what it's done. So it's right here. But I found that an easier way to move the cards around is to just select it and swipe it right here. So right here you can see that I have 1 attachment, 8 items on the checklist are complete, and that I finished it on time on December 21st. So I try to be pretty regular in the way that I name the patterns. So it's the name and then it's the designer. Let's say I see I made a mistake in this name and I want to change the title of the card. I just click on it and thread theory. Oh, I know that I like the name to be before the designer, so I would write Eastwood Pajamas by Thread Theory, just like that. So another thing that I'd like to add is the picture of the fabric requirement and of all the materials that are needed to complete the project. So let's say if I go shopping, I know exactly what I need to buy to complete this pattern. Okay, so let's say I know I finished the ESN bralette and I want to remove it from my next make list. I just click on it and click on archive and it's done. It's kind of like deleting it, but since it's going into the archive list, I can go back and put it again in my list if I want. So let's say I would just like to add another pattern to my wish list. I would click there and just type in Matilda wrap dress by Untitled Thoughts. And then I could just go in and attach the correct picture. In this case, it's not the correct picture, but it's just as an example. And then I could say, oh, I know this dress is a knit, and I know I could add the checklist to it. Okay, so let's say I want to use the search function. I'll just go here in the menu and I will filter cards. I will use the knit label because I want to see what patterns are made using knits. So here they are, all the patterns that are using knits. In some categories I said either a very like stiff knit or a woven, so that's why there's 2 fabric type in this for this pattern. So you see I have those very vintagey swimsuits that are super cool. I really want to sew that. And I have this breast knit jumpsuit from Arc Style. And I have lots of great patterns made using knits. Now let's say I want to see all the patterns using stretch woven. So I have the Mia jeans. You can see I have mainly pants. Then let's say I want to see all the patterns that my mom or my grandma gave me. So that's how you can really use the filter card function to its best, I believe, in my case. So let's say I'm working on this project right now, the Enley shirt by Thread Theory, and I need to assemble the body and sleeve because I did finish to assemble the placket, I did cut the fabric, and I did assemble the pattern. So it really gives me an idea that some step has been done and this is something that's active, that I'm working on it. So that's something that I like as well. I could also push this card to the top because it's something that I am doing right now. I also know that I did finish the ESN bralette, so I could put it in my made list, just like that. I love that it gives me kind of like an overview of where I am with my sewing patterns and just with my sewing practice in general. As for my PDF pattern, I store them on a USB key, and then this USB key is downloaded monthly on my Dropbox to make sure that all my patterns are kind of like archived in a way that even if I lose my USB key, I still have them on my Dropbox. Then regarding how I store them, not digitally but in real life, I have those bins. In fact, I have 2 bins. One bin where my fabric stash is and one bin where my pattern stash is, and they're all here. I use Ziplocs and I just put the pieces in there. If they're not cut, it looks like this, but if the pattern is cut, it can look like this. and I always try to have the name of the pattern and the pattern company on top, and I try to always fold my pattern pieces in a way where I can see this is the sleeve piece or this is the front piece or everything. So it really is easier when I try to dig for this pattern again and try to create it. Then when I cutted the fabric, it looks kind of like this, so I try to put all the pieces back in the Ziploc bag so I'm sure I'm not missing a piece. And since my sewing space is very limited and it's in our living room, I try to keep everything as clean as possible. So all the pieces go back in this and I just put it back in the bin when I'm done for the day. I also have the instruction booklets for my sewing machine and for my serger in there, so it's always handy if I need to find a setting or something else, or just like troubleshoot something that's going on. It's super close to me. Obviously this is not all my pattern stash. I have another bin where I keep most of my patterns, and this bin is just either the patterns that I want to work with or that I'm just inspired by or something that I want to try next. This box, it's all the fabric I have left from projects, and there's one fabric that I didn't sew with yet, and it's this gorgeous red fabric from Blackbird. It's a super like drapey fabric, it's a woven, and I don't know what I will do with it yet. But other than that, I've sewn with all those fabric, as you can see, and those are leftovers. Either that I have a little bit too much and I don't know what to do with it, or I do have a plan. Anyway, those are leftover fabrics and they're my stash basically. So most of the fabric pieces that I own are in this bin. I say most of my fabric stash because few pieces were given to me and I don't really know what to do with them. So I store them in another box in my closet where it's not really distracting me because I don't want to feel the pressure to sew with them. So this is how I organize my patterns and my fabric. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and if you like the channel so far, well, please subscribe. It's always a pleasure to see that you guys are enjoying those videos. And let me know in the comments, how do you organize your PDF patterns? Happy sewing, and I will see you in the next sewing video. Bye!